For the past few years, a major corruption case has been playing out in Uzbekistan, and recently I've been reporting on some of the reasons the development community should be paying attention. First of all, it's just a wild story. The central player is Gulnara Karimova, the daughter of Uzbekistan's recently deceased president, Islam Karimov. Karimov was a dictator who oversaw, and together with his daughter, basically controlled Uzbekistan's massively corrupt economy and political system. Gulnara was known for hosting lavish parties and generally getting her hands on as much of the country's wealth as possible. And she was at the center of this web of bribery and corruption. But then it all starts to fall apart. Internal political and business rivalries get the best of her. She has a falling out with someone who knows a lot about her and her businesses and the various bribe payments she's managed to extract. And then news reports about Karimova's dealings began to appear in the international press. Karimova basically disappeared. No one heard from her. There were even some reports that she'd been poisoned, but now she's reported to be living under house arrest in Tashkent. In the meantime, the US Department of Justice has been able to trace a number of these bribe payments to accounts in European banks, and it adds up to almost $1 billion. So the question is now, if the US government is able to seize this money from those bank accounts, what should they do with it? Usually, the answer would be that you return it to the state, the victim of the bribery scheme. But in this case, that state is Uzbekistan, where bribery and corruption is not just something unfortunate that happens occasionally, it's a fundamental characteristic of the economic and political system. Uzbekistan is ranked 156th on Transparency International's Corruption Index. And this has surfaced a really interesting conversation about what the purpose of these corruption laws and asset forfeiture really is. What's happened is civil society activists from Uzbekistan, several of whom have been imprisoned, tortured, and otherwise victimized by the country's regime of corruption, have spoken out against the idea that this money would just go back into circulation in a systemically corrupt country. They're arguing that the Justice Department should work to do something pretty innovative, which is to use the money to set up a trust fund that could help people who've been victims of torture and state abuse in Uzbekistan. So in other words, these seized bribe payments could become a $1 billion fund for civil society and social development projects in Uzbekistan, which the government would have to agree to keep its hands off of. Both countries now have new presidents, so it's hard to know how things will play out, and it will be interesting to see what takes precedent: international politics, or the chance to acknowledge that the true victims of corruption are real people who want to see real change in their countries. I hope you get a chance to read the piece.